Thick fog covered the alien jungle like a heavy blanket. The trees were tall, their purple leaves whispering softly in the wind. Strange sounds echoed from deep inside the forest clicks, growls and high-pitched chirps. Birds with glowing feathers flew above, but something about this place felt quiet. Too quiet. Eli, a young human explorer, wiped sweat from his forehead. His boots sank slightly into the soft, damp ground. He had followed Shalutha, silent alien girl, for nearly 2 hours. She hadn't spoken much. Only said she wanted to show him something ancient. Shala walked ahead, her slim figure moving gracefully through the vines and twisted roots. Her skin had a faint silver glow, and her long white hair floated behind her like mist. She was beautiful, mysterious and clearly nervous. How much further? Eli finally asked, his voice breaking the silence. Shala looked back with her large violet eyes. Almost there. But remember, do not touch anything unless I say so. Milay raised an eyebrow but nodded. All right. They walked for a few more minutes until the trees suddenly opened up. Strange chill swept through the air. Then he saw it. A massive black pyramid rose before them, hidden in a sunken valley. The stone structure was covered in moss, cracked and aged, yet still standing. Strong. It shimmered slightly, as if it didn't fully belong in this world. The fog around it moved unnaturally, circling its base like living smoke. Whoa, Eli whispered. This is not in any Earth database. It wouldn't be. Shala replied, stepping beside him. This place is older than memory. My people don't come here. They're afraid. Afraid of what? She didn't answer. Eli took a step closer, curiosity pulling at him like a magnet. The pyramid seemed to hum. Deep low vibration entered his chest. There were markings on the stone symbols glowing faintly in blue. Not alien. Not exactly, Shala, he said slowly. This writing, it looks familiar. She stiffened. I warned you not to get too close. But before she could stop him, Eli reached out, his hand pressed against the pyramid. Instantly, everything changed. The ground shook violently. A loud, cracking sound echoed through the jungle. Birds screamed and flew into the air. The glowing markings on the pyramid flared to life, now pulsing bright blue. A hidden seam appeared in the stone. Then slowly, silently, a large square door slid open with a hiss of ancient air. From inside came a wave of warm, strange-scented wind. Shala screamed, stepping back. No, that door has never opened. Eli looked stunned. I didn't mean to do anything. I just touched it. Opened for you, she said, trembling. This shouldn't be possible. Only the marked ones. Only those who carry the blood. Eli asked, confused. What are you talking about? Shala looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. You're human, but something in you is called the pyramid. Something ancient, something dangerous. I glanced at the open doorway. A staircase led down into total darkness. The air felt heavy, like something had just woken up. Should we go back? He asked carefully. Shala's voice was a whisper. We can't. The pyramid has already seen you. Eli took a breath. His heart pounded in his chest. He felt scared, but also drawn to the mystery. Something about this place felt important, like it was waiting for him. I think I have to. Go in. Shala swallowed hard, then nodded. If you do, I go with you. I brought you here. It is my responsibility. They both turned to the dark stairs inside the pyramid. The jungle behind them was silent once more, and then they stepped through the doorway as soon as their feet crossed the stone threshold. The door behind them closed with a deep thud. The light vanished. Only the glowing blue symbols on the walls remained. The pyramid in the mist had accepted the human, but what lay beneath was still watching. Asterisk, the blue light from the glowing symbols was the only thing keeping the darkness away. Eli walked slowly, each step echoing down the cold stone staircase. The air was thick like it hadn't been breathed in for thousands of years. Shala followed closely behind. Her eyes darted around nervously. Usually calm face was now tense, lips pressed tight. She whispered something in her native language, a prayer, perhaps, or a warning. Where do these stairs go? Eli asked softly. No one knows, she replied. No one has ever come this far and returned. That made Eli pause. Then why are we going in? Shla looked at him. Because you opened the door. The pyramid responds to you. That means something. Ancient. The staircase finally ended. Before them was a wide hallway. Floor was smooth black stone, too perfect to be natural. Along the walls were carvings, creatures with long limbs, eyes like stars, and symbols that shimmered as if alive. Carvings were moving, slowly, breathing. Eli bent down and touched one of the shapes. It was warm. That's not right, he muttered. As they walked deeper, the hallway began to change. The air felt heavier, charged with unseen energy. Their footsteps made no sound now. Every breath seemed louder than it should be. Time itself felt slower, and then they heard it, a sound like slow breathing, not theirs. Eli stopped. So did Shala. Did you hear that? He whispered. Shala nodded. Her voice was almost a whimper. We're not alone. Suddenly blue flames lit up on the walls, one after another. The hallway was no longer a hallway. It had led to a massive underground chamber at the center. Of the chamber stood a towering statue. It was humanoid, but not human. Its arms were stretched wide, holding something in both hands, one a sphere glowing with light. The other, a jagged stone, dark as space, and behind it, on the wall, was a giant mural. Eli stepped closer and stared. The mural showed a human, not an alien, a human, like him, holding a staff and walking beside the creature from the statue. Aliens knelt before the human in the painting. The stars above them were drawn in perfect patterns. What is this? Eli whispered. This place. It remembers us. Humans. Shala stared in shock. Your kind was here, before us. Not possible. We thought you were new. Primitive. I think we're not new, Eli said, stepping closer to the statue. I think we're forgotten. Suddenly, the floor began to pulse beneath their feet. The air trembled. The glowing blue. Symbols flashed red for a moment. Shala gasped. Something is waking up. From the corners of the room came clicking noises. Shapes moved in the shadows, long and fast. Run. Shella screamed. Eli grabbed her hand and sprinted toward the far side of the chamber. But the floor opened. Beneath them, they fell. Not far, but enough to land hard. Dust exploded into the air. Coughing, Eli looked up. The chamber above was now sealed again. They were trapped in another space deeper. Older, but there was light here too. Faint, golden. And coming from a pool in the center of the room, the water shimmered like liquid glass. Shala stepped near it, trembling. This is the heart water. It feeds the whole pyramid, remembers everything. Eli approached the pool. He looked down and, instead of his reflection, he saw images. A man like him, standing in this same room, surrounded by alien elders, holding something in his hand. A glowing key. The vision faded. I saw someone, he said quietly. Another human, in this room. Then the stories were true, Shala whispered. Your kind came here once, and changed everything. But why did they leave? Eli asked. Why was it all sealed away? Shala's eyes widened. She pointed behind him. Eli turned. On the wall behind the pool was one final carving. It showed two humans, one lifting the glowing key, and one breaking it in half. The pyramid cracked in the image. Fire, war, darkness. It wasn't just forgotten. Shala said slowly, it was buried on purpose. Selly stepped back from the pool. So why did it call me? The floor beneath them rumbled again, Shala whispered in fear, because it wants to finish what was started. The air had changed again, not just in scent, but in sound, in feeling. It felt thick, like walking through water. Eli and Shala stood still for a moment, unsure whether they were in the present, or stepping into something left behind long ago. The golden pool behind them had gone still. But the image of the two humans, one who lifted the key and one who shattered, it lingered in their minds. Eli took a slow step forward, deeper into the underground level. The smooth black stone under his boots looked freshly polished. But there were no signs of life, only silence. Shala gripped his arm. Wait, listen. Eli paused. At first he heard nothing. Then, very faint like wind slipping through bones, came a voice. He was warned. It whispered. Eli spun around. Did you hear that? Shala nodded. It's starting. The pyramid speaks. But only to those it remembers. The hallway ahead was no longer just stone. It was lined with old banners, some torn, others covered. In strange dust that shimmered under the low light, the banners bore symbols, a triangle, a glowing key, a broken circle. Eli reached out to touch one. Don't, Shala warned quickly. These things, they're not just decorations. They're memory traps. My people used them to store ancient voices. Eli pulled his hand back. So, someone might be listening? No, she said. They're talking right now. Then the whispers returned. More voices layered on top of each other. Male, female, some screaming, some sobbing, all broken. He chose the stars over his people. ... the blood key. Must never fall into their hands again. A child. Was born glowing, he vanished inside the pyramid. Eli covered his ears. The voices weren't loud, but they were inside him. Crawling into his mind. Stop it, he muttered. Just stop. Suddenly, silence returned. Eli opened his eyes and looked around. A new room lay ahead, different from the rest. It was smaller, circular, and filled with mirrors. The mirrors didn't show their reflections, they showed others. Eli stepped in slowly. Each mirror shimmered, then showed images of people, humans, and aliens together. Working on machines, building the pyramid, smiling. Are these real? He asked. Shala looked around, breathing fast. These are echoes. Memories from before. The collapse. One mirror flickered. Eli turned toward it, heart skipping. It showed him, standing exactly where he stood now. But in ancient armor, holding a glowing staff. His eyes were gold. His chest had a mark glowing in the shape of the broken circle. That's not me, he said, stepping back. Shala's voice trembled. Maybe it's your past self, or your ancestor. The pyramid doesn't lie. The mirror figure suddenly looked at Eli. Not a reflection, an actual turn of the head. He failed us, said in a voice that shook the room. The glass shattered. Eli jumped back as shards exploded in all directions, but none hit him. The pieces hovered in the air, forming a new shape, a map, but not of the pyramid, of something deeper, a sealed chamber far below. Marked with a glowing symbol, the key of blood. Shala stared. That's where it's kept, the first key. Ain't the one the ancients fought over. Eli clenched his fists. Then we have to go. Before they could move, the ground shook. Yes! Time, harder. Dust fell from above. Lights flickered. Then came the low growl. Not animal. It's not machine. Something waking up. Something old. Run, Shala shouted. They sprinted down the curved corridor. More whispers followed them. It's faster now. Angry, hurting. Lost Eli glanced back. Once Anne saw shapes crawling out of the walls. Tall, shadow-like creatures with empty faces and glowing hands. They didn't walk. They floated. We're not supposed to be here, Shala cried. But the pyramid opened for me, Eli yelled. That doesn't mean it wants you to survive. Ahead, a narrow gate appeared, glowing with the same symbol as the map. Without thinking, Eli placed his hand on it. The door opened instantly, and they tumbled through just as the shadow. Creatures reached the edge. The gate slammed shut behind them. Silence. They were inside the deepest chamber yet. The air was warm again. But in the center of the room, half buried in crystal, was something alive. It pulsed like a heart, and beside it, another mural. Eli stepped closer. It showed a man and woman, both humans, standing on opposite sides of the crystal. One reached out in hope, the other raised a blade. Below them, fire looks like the real story's just beginning, Eli whispered. Asterisk. Eli's breath hitched as he stepped into the glowing chamber. The floor beneath his boots was smooth crystal, and with each step, The color changed blue to red, red to white, then back to blue. The air was no longer still. It was watching. Shala clung to the edge of the wall, refusing to step into the center. Her eyes were wide with panic. "Don't move too fast," she whispered. "They sense motion." Eli looked around slowly, then up, and that's when he saw them. Eyes. Dozens dash no. Hundreds of giant floating eyes filled the walls and ceiling. Some were round and glowing, others oval and dark, but all were moving slowly, silently, and every single one of them was staring at him. "They're not real," he said, forcing a shaky laugh. "Just ancient tech, right?" Shala shook her head. "The living sensors. Grown from the minds of the pyramid's original creators. Each one holds a piece of memory and judgment." "What are they judging?" "You." The eyes began to blink. First one, then another, and then all of them flashing in a slow, wave-like pattern across the chamber. Blue, yellow, red. A low tone filled the room. Not a sound, exactly, but a feeling, deep in the bones. It made Eli feel like his heartbeat didn't belong to him anymore. In the middle of the chamber stood a round pedestal. On it, a small, glowing orb hovered above a hollow socket. Eli stepped toward it. Shala reached out quickly. "Don't. That's the eye core. If you touch it," but he was already there. He didn't touch it this time. Not physically. He just looked deep into the orb, and the orb looked back. Suddenly, Eli was no longer in the chamber. He stood in a ruined city under a violet sky. The ground was cracked. Buildings floated in the air like shattered dreams. Aliens and humans fought side by side against massive shadows with burning red veins. Fires raged. Screams echoed above it all. Hovered the pyramid, but it wasn't like the one he entered. This one was alive. Surface opened and closed like breathing skin. And from its peak came tendrils of light and death. A voice whispered behind him. "You let it wake." He turned. It was himself. Again, the same ancient version from the mirror. But this time, his eyes were burning gold. His voice was calm, cold. "Do you know what you've done, Eli?" Said, "I'm just trying to understand." Understanding leads to awakening, and awakening leads to judgment. Suddenly, Eli was back in the real chamber. The orb dimmed, and every single floating eye. They saw the vision, Shala said, frozen in fear. "Now they know who you are." Eli looked around. The pedestal began to sink into the floor, revealing a spiral staircase going even deeper. The room vibrated as a new gate opened ahead, its frame lined with silver bones. Shala's voice was barely a whisper. "The last time someone passed through that gate, an entire planet died." Eli stared at the opening, felt no fear, no only purpose. "I think I have to go." "No," Shala pleaded. "You don't understand. The pyramid isn't just a tomb, it's a judge, and it sees you as the one who started it all." "I didn't," he replied. "But maybe I'm meant to finish it, without waiting." He stepped through the bone-framed gate. Shala hesitated for just a second, then followed inside. The walls shimmered like glass, but didn't reflect anything. The space was silent. And in the center of this room, wrapped in silver threads, floated a crown. Not a crown for the head, but for the mind. A thin band of glowing energy, pulsing with voices. Eli stepped closer. It whispered his name. "Eli." "Bearer opener?" Shala gasped. "That's the memory crown, the one worn by the first human guide. It speaks only to its next wielder." Eli reached out. The moment his fingers touched the light, his mind was filled with voices, thousands of them. Generations of humans, commanders, builders, lovers, traitors, and buried deep. Among them, one message repeated over and over. "The real door lies in the dark below." The floor under their feet trembled again. Far beneath the chamber, something massive began to turn. The true gate was waking up. The pyramid was no longer just stone and memory. It was alive and now was breathing Eli. And Shala stood frozen at the edge of the room where the memory crown had whispered to him. Beneath them, a low rumble rolled through the floor. It wasn't an earthquake hit, was the sound of something turning beneath their feet. Something massive. Something ancient. Eli's eyes were still glowing faintly from the crown's touch. His hands trembled, but not from fear, from energy. He could still hear the final message repeating in his mind. The real door lies in the dark below. Shla reached out and grabbed his arm. We shouldn't be here. The path below. It's not part of the original structure. It was added later, sealed by force. Eli looked at her, sweat trickling down his neck. What do you mean? Her voice was low. There was a civil war among the pyramids, builders alien and human, alike. One group wanted to control the stars, the other wanted to hide. The ones who chose power built the lower chamber. And that's where we're going? She nodded once. If the pyramid is waking now, it means it has chosen you to decide what happens next. A clicking sound echoed through the walls. Then a hiss. In the center of the chamber, a new path revealed itself. The floor split open like petals unfolding, and a narrow bridge extended across a glowing abyss. Below, there was no bottom, only swirling blackness, speckled with flashes of red light, like something was moving through it. Eli stepped forward onto the bridge. Shella followed, though her knees trembled. As they reached the center, a strange structure rose from the depths. It looked like an upside-down temple, suspended by long threads of energy. The walls were smooth, glowing faint gold. But what shocked them most wasn't the building itself. It was what stood in front of it. A giant statue, not of a god, not of an alien, of a human. Eli froze. The figure had his face, his eyes, his posture, and in its hands was a broken staff. The same one Eli had seen in the murals before. Shala whispered, almost in awe. That's not a statue. That's a memorial. You've been here before. Maybe not you, but someone exactly like you. Or maybe it was me. A long time ago, Eli said slowly. They reached the base of the statue, and words appeared along the pedestal in glowing letters. The cycle begins where it was broken. The doorway opened behind it. Shella's eyes widened. No one has ever reached this place. Not even the priests of my ancestors. The pyramid was never meant to open this far. Eli didn't hesitate. He stepped inside. What they found was, it's impossible. The room beyond was shaped like a star. In each corner, a floating memory crystal glowed softly. They shimmered like tears. In space, each showing a different moment in time, Eli stepped to the first one. It showed a group of humans and aliens building the pyramid together. It's laughing, working side by side. The second crystal flickered war. The same people from the first. Memory. Now fighting, betrayals. Blood. The pyramid. Burning. The third crystal was darker. It showed a single human kneeling in front of a hidden chamber alone. He placed something glowing into the floor, a seed of light. Then he whispered, bury it. Hide it from both sides, till a time comes when balance can return. And the fourth crystal, Eli gasped. It showed himself standing in this very room, holding the same glowing key the first man had buried. In this vision, Shala stood beside him, her hand touching his chest. A bond of light connecting them. She stared at the vision too. Her voice cracked. We're not here to break anything. We're here to repair what was lost. Suddenly, a deep voice filled the chamber, not from the walls, but from beneath the floor. You have come far, human. It's farther than any since the collapse. But the final path requires truth. The floor began to open again, forming a spiral staircase made of floating stones. It led into blackness lit only by distant stars. Eli took a shaky breath. It's another world down there, Shala nodded. The other side of the pyramid, where decisions were made, and where one last choice waits for you. He stepped onto the floating stairs and descended into the place where time itself had stopped. Asterisk, there was no air below, only silence. And stars, Eli and Shala, floated gently downward on the spiral path of glowing stone. Around them, the darkness was vast, endless, yet strangely comforting. It wasn't a void, it was a memory. A living dream that had waited too long to be awakened. The staircase twisted through a space that felt like sky. But WASN, far ahead, Something massive turned in the shadows, slow, steady, as if it had only just begun to stretch after sleeping for centuries. Shella leaned close to Eli, her voice barely a whisper. "We're inside the heart core. This is where the pyramid stores its soul." Eli said nothing. His eyes were fixed. On the center of the darkness, where a glowing pulse echoed dash boom, dot dot dot, boom dot dot dot, boom dot dot, like the heartbeat of a god. After several more steps, the floating staircase finally ended. They stood at the base of a wide platform made of black crystal. The surface was polished like a mirror, but it reflected something else, not their bodies, but their thoughts, their doubts. Eli looked down and saw himself angry, lost, unsure. The version of him who had left Earth searching for purpose. The version who never believed he was meant for anything. The platform suddenly rippled, and a towering figure rose slowly from the center. It was not flesh. It was not machine. It was something between. A guardian, 30 feet tall. Its body was made of layered stone and golden veins of light. Its head was featureless, no mouth, no nose, just a single eye in the center of its face that I opened and looked straight into Eli's soul. "You who carry the memory of two worlds," it spoke in a voice that echoed without sound. "Do you understand what you have awakened?" Eli stepped forward, his voice steady. "No, but I want to." The guardian tilted its head. "You are not the first to try." It raised one arm. A projection formed behind it, blurry at first, then clear, a human. Eli's face, but wearing armor made of living stone and surrounded by fire. Behind him stood armies, both alien and human, marching as one. "He brought peace," the guardian said.
"Oh, but he also brought destruction."
A second image appeared. The same man, now older, standing alone before the glowing pyramid. His body was broken. His eyes were hollow. He placed a crown on the ground and walked into the shadows. Shella clutched Eli's hand. "He looks just like you." Eli nodded. "Slowly, maybe. He was me in another time." The guardian's voice became deeper. "The key of blood lies ahead. If you take it, the cycle will begin again. Life will return to the pyramid. But so will conflict. It always does. Will you claim it and accept what follows?" Eli hesitated. "What happens if I don't?"
"Dad."
Guardian's body shimmered. The world around them began to fade, and suddenly Eli saw Earth. But it wasn't Earth as he remembered. It was shattered, floating in space, broken into fragments. No life, no sound. He turned and saw alien planets too, burning, cracked, empty. "This is the future without the key," the guardian said. "Stagnation, death, silence." Shella's voice shook. "Why show us this?" "Because this is not a choice of power," said the guardian. "It is a choice of courage, to restart a broken cycle, knowing you may not survive it, but others will." The platform shifted. A staircase of light rose ahead. At the top of it, resting on a stone pedestal, was a small red crystal beating like a heart. It pulsed in time with Eli's own chest. The key of blood, the same shape he had seen in visions. The object that once connected humans and aliens before war tore them apart. Eli looked at Shella. Her eyes were full of fear but also hope. "I don't know what will happen," he said. "You don't need to," she whispered. "Just don't leave it broken like before." He nodded and stepped toward the key. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the pyramid was weighing his soul. When he reached the pedestal, the crystal pulsed brighter. He reached out and touched it. A burst of red light exploded from the stone, shooting up through the darkness like a flare through the night sky. The guardian dropped to one knee. "The bearer has returned. The cycle breathes again." Shella shielded her eyes from the light. When it faded, Eli stood tall. But something had changed. Lines of red light now ran across his veins, and a faint symbol glowed on his chest. Broken circle, now whole. Far above them, the pyramid shook, and somewhere in the stars, the galaxy stirred. Above the chamber of the Guardian, the ancient pyramid roared back to life. Stone walls shifted. Lights long dead began to glow. Towers cracked open, revealing floating crystals that rose into the misty sky. What once looked like ruins now looked reborn, but deep inside. Eli stood still, his hands still glowing from the moment he touched the key of blood. The red lines on his skin pulsed gently, like they were part of him now. Like the pyramid had not just chosen him, it accepted him. Shala stared at him, eyes wide with awe. You're different. Eli looked down at his hands. I feel different. It's like I'm remembering someone else's life and living. My own, at the same time. Behind them, the Guardian lowered its massive body once more. You have completed the awakening. But one step remains. A new doorway appeared. Not made of stone or metal, but light, it led to the surface. But this time, not the jungle. This time, they emerged into a wide golden field that should not have existed. The mist was gone. The sky above was clearer than ever. Towering alien figures stood along the path, frozen in crystal, waiting, and at the far end of the field, a gathering had already begun. Aliens of every kind, some flying, some crawling, some cloaked in shimmering arms, stood in circles, whispering to each other. Tribal leaders, scientists, priests, elders, all drawn by the light of the reawakened pyramid, and at the center of it a land ancient platform with one empty space at the top, the throne of the pact, the same one shown in the memory crystals, the same one no one had sat in for over 10,000 years. As Eli and Shala stepped into the open, all went silent. Eyes turned toward them. No weapons were raised. No threats were made. Instead, they knelt, one by one. Species that had once feared or fought humanity now bowed their heads. Even Shala looked shocked. They remember, she whispered. The last human bearer ended in war, Eli said. Maybe they're waiting to see what this one will do, a small elder. Alien stepped forward. His skin was cracked like dry stone, and his voice echoed like wind in the mountains. We watched your kind rise once, the elder said. We watched them fall. We never thought they would return, but now, you hold the key again, will you? Renew the pact? Eli hesitated. He looked around. So many species, so many eyes, so much hope. He took a breath. The last time we stood here, we tried to rule. This time I'm not here to lead you. I'm here to stand with you. He reached out and took Shala's hand. Her eyes widened, but she didn't. Pull away. I want a new beginning, Eli said. No secrets, no gods, no slaves, no empires. Just silence, and then the crowd began to rise. Not with anger, with cheers. The old stones shook as alien. Voices chanted his name not out of worship, but recognition. The pyramid itself joined the sound. A deep harmonic hum that spread across the land like thunder. And from the top of the ancient platform, something rose from the ground. Not a crown, not a weapon, but a small, glowing vinitz. Branches wrapping around the air, forming a bright red and gold flower, a symbol of life, of balance, of something new. Shala smiled, tears in her eyes. It bloomed for you. No one ever believed it was real. Eli turned to her. Let's make it real. Together. She nodded, stepped up beside him. Together. They walked to the throne of the pact. But Eli didn't sit. Instead, he placed the glowing flower at its base. And with that, the cycle was not just continued, it was changed in the days that followed. Messages from the pyramid echoed across the galaxy. They did not say who had taken the throne, only that the door had opened. Again, and this time it wasn't a warning, it was an invitation.